All right, all right. All right. We will get cooking in just a minute. We'll let the early bird arrivers. We got 2 James Hex in here. Somebody's stolen somebody else's identity, I think, James. Just saying. All right, we'll get started in a minute. Curtis, Dawn, Felix, good to see you, Kevin. Everybody that's coming in. So the question, I have to do, hold on, don't put the information in yet, because everybody's got to be able to do it with everybody. Okay, so the question for today is, where are you from? That's the first question. Where are you from? And what was the size of your first TV set? This will absolutely show everybody's age, right, Bill?
Absolutely.
And so I believe ours was a 13-inch color. So where are you from? Hang on a second. I'll put mine in here. I'm from Woodstock, and 13-inch color console, right? Yeah. All right, so there you go. Mine was a 13-inch colors Woodstock. I didn't spell it right. Okay, fantastic. Can't even spell my own city right. Woodstock, Maryland, for those of you who don't know. All right, fantastic. So where are you from? Welcome back, by the way. Welcome. Where are you from? And what was the size of your first TV set? And we're not talking about TVs today. We're talking about lubricants, specifically green lubricants, right, Bill Woodworth?
Absolutely. That outperformed the rest.
Imagine that. Imagine that. And I'm going to tie this in a little bit later. So can everybody do the text? Put it in the chat. You pop in the chat. Hey, Jatika, I have your question in here. I saw one of your questions. I made sure yours is in there. I saw yours. Dallas, and a 22-inch color from Curtis. Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
Product of the 70s, I think.
I'm gonna date myself here. I think mine was about a 15-inch black and white.
Yeah, that's right. All right. And let's see. Curtis from Dallas, Morgantown, West Virginia. We drive through there a lot of times.
Awesome.
Heading to or near there. 19-inch color RCA. Very specific in college. I love it, James. And let's see. Marcella's from Georgia. She had a 13-inch black and white. Bill, I think she grew up down the street from you.
RCA Victor.
Patrick from St. Cloud, Minnesota, 20-inch Zenith. and James. Do we really have 2 James Hex? What are the chances of that? One from Morgantown. We have 2 James Hex here. One from Morgantown, and the other one is from Buffalo with a 24-inch console, black and white. 2 James Hex got to meet each other. That's all I know.
There you go.
That's the first time that I've seen that happen. We've had thousands of people here. Diane says Boston, 13-inch. Yeah. Felix, 19-inch black and white from Marion, Indiana. I love it. Is that insane, James? That is insane. I thought somebody was coming in on your coattails from your registration, man. Nah, you got your long lost.
Well, it's not. There's somebody else.
It is. It's somebody else. 2 James Hex. What agencies are you guys from? And I can't tell who's who. And Kevin from Lena, Louisiana, 10-inch black and white. Wow, super antenna ears. You bet, baby. So Curtis, James, one's NRC, right? One's from NRC, and the other's from CA. That is insane.
It's her supervisor. It says this is
It's
Allie.
her supervisor.
It's not, and it's
no
just
way.
showing his name. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought we had 2 James Hex. I knew somebody was stealing somebody's identity. That's what I knew. That was the answer. All right. We have the 10-inch. Let's see. Dawn from Boston Healthcare System. Fantastic VA Boston Healthcare System. Fish and Wildlife. Dawn has a 13-inch black and white. Woo, we know. Dawn, we're really getting close to our ages here. Steve, Chicago, 19-inch from the FDA. We'll go ahead and get started in just a minute. James Heck signed it. Didn't change it now. I see. There is only one. They broke the mold with James Heck. I appreciate it. All right, guys. We'll get started here. Thank you for that. It's always nice to get a little icebreaker. We will tie it in a little bit later, but we're not talking about television sets for most of this anyway. We're talking about the USDA and EPA approved bio-based lubricants because it's a big deal. And we want to welcome everybody. There's a lot of folks. We saw some folks from FAA and FWS. It's a big issue, right? Right, Jennifer? This is something that's across the board. And there isn't any agency that is affected, I don't think. Don't you think?
I would agree.
Yeah, absolutely. So real quick disclaimer, it's not endorsed by GSA or any other agencies. It's provided you for information purposes only. And your participation, this is the big part, it's not an indication of purchase from any vendor. This is what GSA gives us because you happen to be a GSA holder, aren't you, Bill Woodworth?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We are a schedule holder.
Absolutely. So this is Bill Woodworth. He's the COO. We have Jennifer Coker. She's the VP of Sales and Marketing with Nexus Green. And where are you from, Jennifer?
Texas.
Texas.
Mhm.
And how big was your first TV set?
I don't know. It was bigger. I don't know.
It was
Similar
bigger
to what
than-
we have today. I don't know.
Similar to what we have today. We'll show you that in a minute. All right. So we love participation, as you know. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand, pop it in the Q&A. If you have anything that you don't want everybody and their mother to see, you can send it to jcoker@nxgreen.com and she'll answer those questions. So let's figure out, before we get into our thing, what in the world are you doing here? Are you here because you use the common lubricants that we're talking about? Are you in the hot seat for implementing the transition to the green? Because we do have the requirements going there. And do you make decisions on which lubricants you use? Are you responsible for safety compliance? We had a bunch of folks last time that were in that, or your boss made you come. And I think James ought to put that one in there. His boss is there. All right. And if you ever been to a Gov brief before, that's awesome. And so we will get into this will be the best briefing ever. Listen to this, Bill. This is awesome. Curtis from FAA says, the term bio-based is thoroughly explained. I think we'll get into it enough to be thorough. Don't you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then Patrick from Fish and Wildlife. If I can find a place to purchase the required items and the vendors are in FBMS. I don't know what that is. And they have done business with the Gov before. You've done that. I'm not sure if FBMS is. We'll talk about that if we need to. Peter from the VA, the substitutes work better and less expensive and more environmentally friendly. Guess what? I do believe that they're cost effective and they're essentially the same, right? Right, Bill?
Yeah, absolutely.
These are the ones you're going to be talking about. So Craig from the FAA, I can apply this information to my work area. Fantastic. Jatika, there's data on safety for people using these agents. In fact, there will be data on that. Exactly, Jatika. And Robert, I don't multitask during the meeting. Focus, Robert, focus. Jerry from HUD, if screenshots or a workbook is available for future use, yes. In fact, I'm going to post that right into the chat right now. If I can find it. Here's the chat. Oh, wait a minute. I got to go get it. Let me see if I can do this without starting a time, warping the time-space continuum. Come on, where are you? Whoops. Hang on, guys. Sorry. I had this ready for you, and then it disappeared. Here we go. Zoom sometimes is not my friend. All right, there you go. There it is. And I'll put those in as we go as well. And then what's the other one? And John says, get to the point. Exactly, as I'm struggling to figure out what I'm supposed to be clicking on. All right, and then please address, these are important. Dave from NRC. Any environmental limitations, ambient temperature, cold climate. We actually are going to address that today in the precipitation of lubricant. Love that. Patrick, is recycled oil still a requirement? Or is that a requirement from the past? This doesn't affect any of the recycling of oil because it's no longer oil, right, Bill?
No, it's all agricultural based.
Got it. Cost benefit ratio for Bruce. I think we'll get to that. Robert M. We have two Roberts. Robert M. from the VA. These products meet manufacturer specs for lubing. Bill?
Absolutely. They match the specs on most other lubricants you use.
All right.
If you have a specific question about a specific application, all you got to do is contact us and we'll look into it for you.
Fantastic. And then Curtis, long-term durability testing. That's a good one too. The breakdown of bio-based lubricants versus petroleum-based lubricants over time. Wow, that's a winner. Curtis, I don't know. I don't know if we have that information, but I'll bet you can get it from Bill.
Oh, absolutely. We tested against most other items in the market, and we actually last longer between reapplications. And we right now are looking at an extended shelf life for a product. We don't know how long that's going to be yet because we've only had it on the shelf for 8 years. We're fairly new lubricant, so
yeah. So yeah, that'll be an interesting thing to study over time as well. Robert Z says purchasing options, and we'll talk about that a little bit because there's different places that you can go. We will be reviewing today the cases for change, certificates, certification initiatives, because that's what we're talking about for USDA and EPA, being driven by the president all the way down through the organizations, and what you can use to replace those with, and mostly protecting you and your people is what this is all about. And if you need anything, make sure you can ask questions throughout, because we do want to help make the change to bio-based and continue the conversation with you. We do have the session docs, as I put in there. I'm going to pop those in here again, so you have them. If I could get to my controls. What is happening? Zoom is not my friend. All right, here we go. Got it back here. All right, so I'm popping those in. There's a lot of information in there. We're not going to cover everything in depth here today, but it does include a lot of the different reports from NIH and some of the safety data sheets that compare side to side for use, so that you can see what you can use as replacements. So with us, we have Bill Woodworth and Jennifer Coker. They're both from Nexus Green, and the reason they're here is because they actually manufacture this. And if you'll see, 99% is made in the United States, which is another big thing. We're not really going to go into the BAA stuff, but you guys have been doing this for a while, and you've done it for some very interesting reasons. Give us a little background on you, Bill, and how you got started.
well, the whole project started in 2011 when a local school system had an issue with lubricating lockers and having to basically shut down their facilities for 48 hours to ventilate afterwards. We thought we could do a better job, and after roughly 7 years of formulation, we come up with our formula, which is now patented and really unmatched in the market.
That's awesome. And so that's why you're here. Obviously, you can only talk about your products, but as people move to the green side, there's other ways to do things, but you guys actually have done this, and you have some specific replacements for some specific products, which is what we're going to ask you about right now, which is, do you use any of these standard type products? WD-40, you can choose as many as you want, because you're going to be amazed. When I started talking to Bill about this and Jennifer, we were reviewing some of the documentation within the ANSI and other safety protocols. And it was interesting that you're asking the question. Some of the folks were asking the question kind of sort of around safety and disposal. And it'll be interesting to see what you think about this when you get done this briefing, because I was blown away. So a lot of folks using WD-40, who doesn't? I love the smell of that stuff, just saying. And that's not safe, apparently, Bill.
Yeah. If you read the label, you probably shouldn't do that.
I shouldn't do that. All right. So, and while we're talking about this, we're going to jump into the executive order. You guys can keep responding to that. We definitely want to know which products that you use. And it's interesting. There's a few that use other types of spray lubricants. Obviously, there's a lot out there, right? That we're not going to cover every spray lubricant, right? But we'll talk about some of the standard ones that you see, right? So for the executive order for 14081, talks about expanding the market opportunities for folks like bio-based products like Nexus Green. That's what these folks do. And no, it's not a push for Nexus Green, it's education, but these are the guys that are experts in this field. They train and support about biomanufacturing, which is exactly what we're doing here on GovBrief today. So why are we doing this? Because if you take a look at when these were actually created and the fundamental components of these, some of these are pretty old, aren't they, Bill?
They're all old. They're from the mid 1900s, 1950, 1960 area for most of them.
Which is pretty amazing when you think about this. And there's nothing wrong with having legacy, but when it comes to having products that we're using today, the reason I was asking the question about the televisions is this question. Is this in 1941? This is what you had all the way through 57. And what Bill was just saying, a lot of the fundamental components of these products that we're talking about are actually made in this time frame. So it's pretty crazy. And so this is what you could get for $4.95 in 1957. For $4.95, this is what Jennifer had when this is her first TV. But that's what you can get today. So if you do a little comparison, the only reason we do this, a little levity, number one, but the other thing is really driving the case for change. Imagine if we had to actually watch sports today on those televisions. Same thing here. We have the ability now to make some of the changes, and Bill and his team have done some of these things that have made changes. And if you look at the safety data sheet, and there's several that are in the handouts that I will now post again for you, for the folks who just landed. So those are some of the handouts for you. That if you take a look, a lot of these, the signal word is danger, because either they're flammable or they cause respiratory problems, right, Bill?
Absolutely. And some of them are also carcinogenic.
Yeah, not all of that's not good. Big words like that. You have to explain those big words, Bill. So, but let's talk about the OSHA standards for these types of substances. These are the fundamentals. Is this what we're looking at, or the fundamentals of some of these petroleum based right here?
Yeah.
So when you look at, you mentioned, so benzene and silica, that's the other part, right? So it's not just, it could be silicone based, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, silicone based or petroleum based. None of them come without extensive warnings.
And so the objective here, and OSHA actually has a transitioning toolkit that is included in your handout, as a matter of fact, that talks about cost savings, the efficiency, because we're not just talking about one-to-one. Sometimes they're very equal, right, in the way they operate, and sometimes you're actually getting improved performance, right, Bill?
Absolutely. We've tested side by side with every major competitor in the marketplace, and on most of the basic testing, the 4-ball wear test, among others, we have done better. We are 20 to 30% better in lubrosity compared to probably the top 2 sellers. I don't want to call them out by name right now, but everybody knows who they are. But we are actually slipperier, for lack of a better term.
You're slipperier, okay,
and we last longer.
Bill's folks are slipperier. That's what I heard. All right. But a lot of this is just lining up with what the USDA and EPA guidance is, and as well as other agencies are doing studies. And the pieces that they're saying that we need to really pay attention to are PAHs. What is a PAH? PAH. What does that mean?
Excuse me. It's basically a forever chemical. They're bad for you, and excuse me. And basically there's a move to remove these types of chemicals from all consumer goods. And
polyacrylic aromatic hydrocarbons is what that means, kind of thing. It's on the right hand side there. If you can look at the carcinogens,
they all leach out.
They all leach out, exactly. And there's actually there's a food grade one that's also provided by CDC. So the idea is, you don't have to read it all, but just know that there's a lot of supporting documentation for making the move. And I found that a lot of times we just need to help folks understand the why. And here's one of the reasons why. all of us, right? Who has this kind of thing at their house? And I know for me, I do. Jennifer, you probably don't because now you work for Nexus Green, but everybody else does that's here, having these types of things. Now, if you look at what ANSI says about this, the American National Standard for respiratory protection, which if you look back, and we'll talk about some of the safety cards, which include the respiratory piece, right? They're saying that and this is why they shut down your school, right?
Yep,
Bill?
absolutely.
Right? Because
Yep.
otherwise all the kids would have to dress like this. Everybody knows what this looks like now from COVID, right? So this is today. This isn't like, and yes, there's been some improvements in different formulas, but the fundamental parts of these haven't changed in a long time. And that's why there's these initiatives that are coming for the green lubricant certification initiatives come from USDA, EPA, NSF. What is NSF, Bill?
It's a private organization that tests and certifies chemicals to be safe around food used for human consumption.
And then you have the PFAS that you mentioned before, the
Yeah.
forever chemicals, right? And we're not going to talk a lot about PFAS, although these, if it's a bio lubricant, it's going to break down appropriately and will
Yeah.
not be a forever chemical, right?
Exactly. Our products
All
are
right.
designed not to harm the environment.
So if you're gonna, so these are the three that we're going to address today. There's more lubricants out there, obviously, but your general purpose and what they're saying, the multi-agency are the people that are saying, here is the information that can support you on your general all-purpose lubricants. Petroleum and marine lubricants come from the Coast Guard. There's some certification requirements there. And CLP, what is cleaner lubricant protectant?
Effective.
Is that what that is?
Yes, for
And that's-
small arms and weapons.
For weapons. And I think so we're going to review every one of these and do a comparison of the chemicals that for what you guys do. Now for you have what is this one? This is multiple use lubricant. Tell us about this and how it works.
This lubricant is designed to replace WD-40, Liquifix, Blaster, any of those, whether they be petroleum-based or excuse me, silicone-based. It is about 80% fully biodegradable. It is the general purpose is certified safe for use around food, so it can be used in a galley or commercial kitchen. Excuse me. And it's been designed to perform better. I mean, this was not going to happen if we couldn't come up with something that actually outperformed the competitors in the market. It lasts longer. We have no VOCs, so what you put down to lubricate whatever you're working on will stay there instead of evaporate in the first 20 to 30 minutes. And like I said, we've tested against all the majors, and we outperformed them in the 4-ball wear test, among other things.
Interesting. And it doesn't have an odor, even if I like WD-40 smell. You're not going to put that in
Yes.
there for me?
Yeah, no, it doesn't smell.
Gotcha. All right. So the next one is the petroleum marine lubricants, and the Coast Guard has their standards. And you mentioned this before, 80% biodegradable. That's the requirement, isn't it?
Yes, they have an elevated biodegradability for use on or near U.S. waterways. So we had to increase the biodegradability to above 80%. It still outperforms things like CRC and other marine lubricants that are in the market. And again, it is safe. We haven't added anything that would be, shall I say, bad for you to get to where we needed to be. And it's, again, we haven't figured out shelf life yet, but we've been on the shelf for 8 years with no issues with performance.
That is fantastic. So, and what is the difference between pressurized and non-pressurized? It's
aerosol or non-aerosol. The smaller bottles are pumped, so it's, you know, the number of times you push it, it will pump lubricant out. The larger cans are pressurized. The only warning we have on our can is for pressurization. because that's required by the federal government.
Oh, yeah, because if it gets too hot or something.
Yeah, or you're not supposed to puncture it under pressure.
Right. Well, that makes sense. And then finally, we have the CLP. And this is, I think this is one of the most interesting of the products that you have, primarily because of the odor, but it outperforms, it does, you have like documentation that says it does at least as well as petroleum.
Oh, it outperforms petroleum products by quite a bit. It has a natural negative charge, so it doesn't actively attract the debris and other residue from firing a weapon. Again, it has no odor, which in a combat environment is incredibly important. And again, it is non-toxic and sustainable.
It was interesting you mentioned about the odor. I was talking with some other folks about sunscreen being and bug spray being used by the military, and in some instances they're like they can't use it because they can smell, people can smell it coming, right?
Yes, the only real non-toxic competitor we have in this field has an odor that could be smelled almost half a mile away.
Oh,
So
that could be a problem.
that it could be.
So there's a lot of information on here. Please don't try to read it all. Just know it's part of your handouts. That's in the chats. You can download these. But one of the questions, and several of the questions actually had to deal with the temperature, and there's multiple temperatures here. Some of those are flash points. Some of these have to deal with viscosity. But talk about what the difference is with even just flash points and what that means. What is a flash point?
A flash point is where something combusts, and our flash point is much higher than most everything else in the industry. Most of your petroleum-based products will flash, on anything that's even marginally hot. Our lubricant, if you spray it on a match, it will put the match out, or a lighter. As a kid, you'd run around with your can of WD-40 and spray it past a match and you'd get a blowtorch. Ours won't do that. As for temperature, we see no degradation in performance from about 150 to 160 degrees down to about 35 below zero. So, you have a huge range where you can use the product. We're actually working on the low end a little bit for the military, but as of right now, if it's below our operating temperature, I'm not sure you want to be outside.
No, definitely. So that was David from NRC was asking the limitations. So ambient temperature and cold climate. David, did that answer for you? Does that answer for you the type of restrictions you're talking about? And how low what is your temperature range in the negative, you said?
It's down to about 40 below zero.
That is flipping cold.
Yep.
So yeah. So if there's anybody else got any questions about the comparison of whether or not it could be a replacement for what you're using your common lubricants for.
But let me throw in right here. Our product does not negatively affect pretty much any material we've tested against. Rubber, plastics, composites, metals. There's really no degradation of the material surface using our product.
Gotcha. So Mirna is asking, what are the shelf lives of your products? Great question, Mirna.
Again, we've been producing it for about 8 years now, and we've seen no decline in performance in the product that's 8 years old. Next year we'll test again and we'll move it to 9 years. It's basically we up it every year after we test it.
Fantastic. Hopefully that helps a little bit. And most time you're using these relatively quick.
Well, we hope so.
Yeah, that's right. Use it up. All right. So what is in the way of adoption within your agency? And you can either answer this in the poll or you can pop it in the Q&A, because every once in a while, folks will pull out something that is just we hadn't been thinking about. But a lot of times it's people don't like change. Some people just need the proof that it works. Right, Bill?
Absolutely. That's actually the most important thing, that
Yeah.
our product works and outperforms others in the market.
Exactly right. And then budget, if you're already spending the money, usually that's not the problem, but every once in a while it becomes that. Procurement options, we'll talk about that at least for Nexus Green. But yeah, it becomes an issue because that was a couple different people were asking the question earlier about procurement options and having it accessible. So we appreciate that. So if there's anything you'd like, if you need some help, I'm sure that Bill and Jennifer will be able to help with anything that you'd like. So you can pop that in there. Ultimately, it's all about protecting yourself, the folks that you're working with, and the environment. And while a lot of that is driven through the environmental components, really it's for us. It's for us being safer. Right, Bill?
Absolutely. I created the product to be able to use around my kids and my family. So
yep. That never hurts. And one of the things that we're finding is as we continue the conversations is that some of the agencies actually want to be part of setting the example. Obviously, USDA and EPA talk about it, but if you would like to be part of that, we're going to give you an option to do that in a few minutes. But ultimately, it's going to be helping you meet the executive order and memoranda that are coming down for all these, supporting the biomanufacturing, bio-friendly, and BAA compliant. And you mentioned 99% because one of the products, what's the deal with the 1% there, Bill?
there's one component of our product that just is not physically produced in the United States. The environment in the United States doesn't allow them to grow and produce that particular oil that we use. So we have to buy that outside. But other than that, even the plastic bottles and pump tops are produced here in the United States and sourced that way.
Awesome. And James Heck has to go, but apparently the doppelganger will be here.
There you go.
So there you go. But yeah, by the way, this is being recorded and we'll make sure you get a copy of that. So we appreciate the feedback on that. And then the last thing we want to ask before we get into procurement options is if you'd like to continue the conversation, and we're encouraging folks to participate in a pilot. And if you have any other things you'd like to know about Nexus Green specifically, you can ask about that. And if you need a follow-on meeting with your agency, that's fine. And if you want to participate or you would like to help present in this, because that's one of the things for being an example that we love to have if you would like to participate in that. So we'll keep that open for a minute. And I said earlier, you don't have to buy from Nexus Green because they're here, because that was part of the disclaimer, but you can if you want to. They're a small business. They are a GSA schedule holder. And if you need to run through partners, they'll help you find a partner if you don't have one for yourself. And you also have your DLA dibs, right?
Jennifer?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
We have
So-
a question in the Q&A. Did you see that?
And I missed it. Okay, since CLP is odorless, will a dog or TSA order equipment still find a weapon trace in suitcase? Ronald, asking the detailed question. I do not know. Do you know if that would be the case, Bill?
I could look into it and get back to it.
Because that's wild. So they may actually be tracing the lubricant. I didn't think about that. Ronald's putting out the TSA stuff. I appreciate it. We don't know the answer to that, Ronald. How would you like to be the test pilot case for that? Love that idea. If anybody else has any questions, we'll be glad to ask. What is the oil that is made outside the U.S.? Is it combined with other oil or used available in the U.S.? It is a secret ingredient, right, Bill? Is that what it is?
Well, it's one of the ingredients. It's a agricultural product that we extract the oil from and then modify the oil to work in our application. And it's a variant of a palm or a coconut oil. that particular element. But, you know, we also go through and we take all the bad things out of it. So that we basically give it an unlimited shelf life.
So there you go, Don. Can't tell you exactly what it is because it's secret. But it is by far and away meets BAA compliance, even as they up that, because that's changing too. That's going up to 65%, right?
Yeah.
They're gonna take that up to 70.
We're way over that.
Yeah, you're way over that. So that's good. But great question, Don. Nice trying to get all the secret information.
Yeah, there you go.
Do you have a list of your products and their uses? Mirna is asking.
We have, if it's not on the website now, it will be up shortly. We have a list of about 2,000 or 3,000 uses for the general multi-purpose. You know, we love people to let us know what they're using it for that might not be on the list, so we can add it. I had a gentleman last week send me pictures. He was working, doing home improvement, and he got spray paint all over his shoes, his favorite pair of shoes. So he used Nexus Green to rub down his shoes, and apparently it took the spray paint off of them. You know, not something I would have thought of, but hey, it worked.
Hey, might be able to sell that to Nike.
Yeah, we've had people use it from everything from general lubrication to reconditioning O-rings and rubber seals, you know, to basically using it as a protectant on engines and metal parts during storage. It's pretty much an all-purpose product.
So Dawn is asking, okay, thanks for the answer. I know that palm oil is very destructive to forests. Does it exclude palm oil? That's a great question.
Well, we're always looking to improve our product, and to be perfectly honest, we are actively looking for a substitute because palm oil is not produced in the United States. So yes, we're working to replace that one component because it's not US based, but at the present time, it works the best for what we're having it do within our formulation.
And then she said, do you have an SDS available for us to review before purchase?
The SDS is available on our website for each of the products.
Absolutely. Great questions, Dawn. Thank you very much. Hey, that's the kind of feedback we need. Love that. And then Ronald says, any outdoor auto or chain stores supply your products? Great question.
We are in the catalog at Ace Hardware. We are currently working on getting our product placed at both Walmart and AutoZone, but it's not in the stores yet. And with Ace, because most Ace Hardware stores are independently owned, it's the owner's decision whether to carry our product or not. If you go in and ask for it, they'll probably start stocking it for you. But we're doing an educational program with Ace Hardware also, so that their store owners can become more familiar with our product.
And Mirna is asking about NSF. NSF-H1 is not National Science Foundation. It is.
No, it's a private organization.
Great question, Amir.
That only does certifications for safety of chemical products.
And Ronald says liquid wrench makes great cutting oil for small on-the-spot situation. How about yours?
I've used Nexus Green on both my mill and my CNC.
Well, there you go. So as a cutting agent?
Yeah.
Awesome. So that I think that does it for the questions. And just so everybody knows that we have some more if you want to pop some more, and that's great. But I want to make sure you get you know what you're going to get by the end of the day. Early tomorrow, you get a copy of or a link to the presentation, the session docs, which there are many, and I'll pop those in here. If you haven't had a chance to download those yet, you can get those from those links right there. And you'll get a link to the video, the CE certifications. If you need them, let me know for continuing education, and a one-on-one meeting if you would like to meet with Bill and or Jennifer, even though Jennifer talks way too much during these conversations. So if you any other questions before we get you guys out of here? I'll get to that one in just a second. And here's the information if you need to reach out to Bill and or Jennifer. So what are the plans for introducing aviation lubricants to the industry? Great question, Curtis.
We would have to talk with aviation experts about what particular attributes our general purpose doesn't do. We've actually spoken to the Air Force previously, actually it was pre-COVID, about using our lubricant as a general lubricant, on the flight line. We should probably go back and revisit that at this point. I would have to know specifically what you wanted to use it for, to address that directly.
So I think, Curtis, if you want to hop on a call with, so aviation needs corrosion protection.
Yeah, we do that really well.
So is there any special testing that's required for aviation that you would have to do?
That's the thing for aviation. I don't know. We're doing the 100-hour salt spray test for the CLP right now, which is a corrosion protectant issue.
And Mirna said corrosion protection for rebars. I'm not sure about that one either. Great question.
It displaces moisture, so yes, anything you spray it on should be protected to some extent.
And Ronald's asking about meeting ASTM standard.
That all of our testing is ASTM standards.
There you go, Ronald. Fantastic. So, Mirna, did that answer the question?
I'd like to throw in also, we don't do our own testing. We only do testing through third parties because we want the results to be uncompromised.
Wow, right on. David Marsh is asking, has it had any testing for wire rope lubrication?
I have electricians that currently use it to pull wires. But other than that, we really haven't focused on that.
That's a great question, David. Anything else before we get you guys out of here? That was awesome stuff. I'll tell you, I learned something new every time we talk, Bill. You just a wealth of information every time. Every time we talk, and we haven't told a lot of the funny stories. Try to keep it focused and on point.
Yes, there you go.
For our engineer types. So anyway, we appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for joining us. And if there's anything that Bill or Jennifer can do, they'll be glad to answer those kind of questions. If you have any GovBrief questions, shoot them over to support@govbrief.us, and we'll be glad to answer those for you if we can.
Absolutely. We're happy to talk to anybody about how you might use our product. So don't hesitate to get a hold of us.
And well, great job, guys. Like I said, I learn a lot every time. And I really appreciate everything that you guys are doing to help with the environment and making the change. I think it's important for everybody.
Awesome.
All right, let's see. Dawn says thanks. You're welcome. Mirna says thanks. You're welcome too. We'll go ahead and get you guys out of here. Thanks so much for joining us, Bill and Jennifer. Great job as always. Appreciate you guys.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Hey guys.